This is Square on the daily chart, and I was looking for price to bounce after price declined and penetrated the this level here between 56 and $60. But two things happened this past week. The stock was downgraded by an analyst at UBS by the name of Reina Kumar. She slashed her price target to $65, and she stated the following. In the second half of 2023 and 2024, block gross profits growth will likely slow, given softening of consumer discretionary spending, a slowdown in Cash App monthly active user growth, and moderation of Cash App monetization rates. Now, second thing happened this past week that I was not aware of. Let's look at this video.
Shares of Block, the payments platform, in the red after experiencing widespread outages over the last 2 days. Many sellers were not able to access the platform and therefore could not process their payment. Service has now been restored, but it has done little here for the stock, closing the day off just about 5%. And Nikiko, we saw shares fall to the lowest level that we've seen since last year, since about November. And you talk about the fact that Block has had some trouble already this year. The stock in the red since the start of the year, well off, about 80% off the highs that we saw back in 2021. So obviously a bit of a concern here for investors.
Yeah, and Sean, on a personal level, I saw the impact, right? There are millions of small businesses that use that white square as we know it to process payments, and so many of them had to turn to cash because of that shutdown. So certainly a widespread impact. Yes, things have been restored, but Block releasing, or Square, I should say, releasing a statement saying once the outage has been fully investigated, we plan to publish a full review of this issue and determine what steps we can take to prevent it from happening. Worth noting, the Cash App, also owned by Block, also experienced an outage. So certainly not a good look at a time when we have seen that stock really pull back in a big way. And again, worth repeating, that stock at its lowest close since October of last year. Shares of Kroger.
Now, to get a full picture fundamentally of Square, let's look at this article. It is coming from The Motley Fool. Here's why shares of Block tumbled 28% in August. So shares of Block dropped 28.4% last month. Investors soured on the stock after its quarterly results were released. The stock also struggled with a sell-off in cryptocurrency markets. Block reported quarterly earnings early in August, and those results were met with mixed reviews. The company modestly outperformed analyst estimates and revised its full-year forecast higher. Despite reporting those generally favorable results, the stock dropped following the announcement. Investors are worried that the Block will struggle against growth headwinds in the medium term. A difficult environment for consumers is bad news for small business transaction volumes, which will negatively impact transaction fee revenue for Block Square payment solutions. Consumer weakness and volatile capital markets are also likely to dampen demand for the company's Cash App services, which include personal banking, transfers, payments, and investing tools. Now, hear this. Let's talk about the U.S. consumer for a minute. Pretty much they've drained 90% of any pandemic savings they had. Credit card debt is soaring and at record highs. Late payments on cars and credit cards are at a decade high. And this buy now, pay later phenomenon jumped 40% from earlier this year. So consumers are cash strapped. And then you have Bitcoin. Anything associated with Bitcoin is guilty by association. Block shares also rise and fall with the performance of Bitcoin, for better or worse. The company owns a significant amount of the cryptocurrency, and it generates a portion of its gross profits from crypto transactions. In reality, crypto assets are a relatively small portion of the company's balance sheet, and Bitcoin transactions only represented 2% of its gross profit last year. So where do we go from here? Well, the company continues to execute, with gross profits continuing to charge higher. It managed to reduce operating losses over the first half of the year, and it generated more than $400 million of operating cash flow over the past 2 quarters. Excluding the impact of Bitcoin revenue, which is volatile and doesn't contribute much to the bottom line, the company's first half revenue rose 23% over last year's. Going back to the charts, Square is getting really, really cheap. However, at the penetrating the zone at 56 points, there's going to be a little bit more downside risk. So let's zoom down to the daily chart. And let's look at current price and look below this yellow line here. All right, these are the pandemic lows. And you can see volume spiking at the $50 level. See how price came to this $31, $32 level and then spiked higher. What was that from? Nice little pocket of buyers. When price rose in return, it could not get to that level, telling you that there were definitely buyers down here. Okay, I don't see any levels of interest with the exception of this gap. So now I'm going to kind of isolate that gap. I want to go to the weekly chart. Okay, can't use that. It's used up. Actually, that's the gap that we saw on the daily chart. Wow, so we penetrate $50. You know, price can go down another 20%. But I got to anticipate we're going to get some type of bounce. A couple of dollars lower. Nevertheless, personally, I would wait probably until the end of the year, early 2024, as Bitcoin turns around due to the Bitcoin halving, and as interest rates hikes stop, potentially reversing and getting cut. At that point, Block, aka Square, is going to be bullish as hell. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Please like the video.